I'm just making it. I could give John the word.
A word is a bird.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our city council meeting. Get started late here, but had other meetings, so thanks for your patience. We're gonna jump right in. And 3.1, review of this evening's agenda. Any changes, comments, questions? Okay. 3.2, future agenda items.
I have a few
Okay.
that you all might want to consider.
Okay.
One is pickleball in our ordinance, the installation of pickleball courts or sport courts and with buffers and how far away they need to be from residential areas. And I don't know if that's something that you all, we had an incident that came up and was brought to our attention, and we have been talking about it for a while as staff and looking at it. A lot of communities are putting it into their ordinance. Not only on private property, but on public property as well. So there's a lot of noise involved with sports, especially pickleball. So trying to mitigate some of those from residential areas, if that's something you're interested in discussing.
We should.
Okay. And the other one is we have a joint meeting scheduled for the last Wednesday of this month. We need to know if you'd like to invite the planning commission to come have a joint meeting with you.
As long as there's purpose.
I think the community development team has a few items that they're interested in discussing.
We've been thinking that we need to amend some of our ordinances or introduce some new tools to address some of these infill projects that we're seeing. And the results of some of them are not very good. We just don't have tools that are designed for these smaller projects. Another issue that we need to address is our current moderate income housing plan requires, or we have a requirement to discuss, not necessarily to adopt, but to discuss detached accessory dwelling units. You've seen that in other communities. Bluffdale has just announced that they're pursuing an ADU toolkit. So I would just like to report back to the state in this next review cycle that we've had a conversation to see what the direction of the council might be on that issue. We have like 3 or 4 things I think we said we wanted to discuss with the council.
That might be a good pickleball discussion
Yeah,
there too.
we could do that.
And
Between
there are things that the planning commission's gonna have to weigh in on too eventually, so it's
Yeah.
nice to have it ready.
Just so you're aware, that's a really busy week. We have
Memorial
Memorial
Day,
Day
Monday.
and the rodeo.
Yeah,
So
rodeo's
clear your
coming.
calendars,
Graduation.
schedule vacation,
graduation's
all through there.
yeah,
Rugby
Meeting Wednesday
game.
night, rodeo Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
yes.
Harriman High graduation parade Thursday.
Turn to me on that. Be a busy week.
Do we, would we be better off moving that joint meeting to a different week?
Okay,
Good.
you got it.
The challenge is,
I was supposed to
you
call
need another fifth because they meet
Right.
unless you're off on Wednesday.
On the
Right.
fifth Wednesday.
I need to.
A month is the fifth Wednesday.
Yeah, I know.
Right, the graduation.
Thursday night.
May 30th?
Thursday night, 8.
It won't be another
Do you want to-
off
No, but
quarter.
what if we can join with them their next?
It would be in July.
Yeah,
During the
Have a
dinner.
30th.
but what if we did it during one of their regular meetings and joined them, or is that not?
They're busy with
Okay.
stuff. I think
Don't we, if we
It'd
stole
be
one
better
of
to have a
ours,
special meeting.
especially in
We
7
have
years
maybe
old.
come up there too. We can have maybe show.
you do it in July if you wanted. I don't know when our next
Is that-
recording is. When do we have to
It's July.
report on the,
Oh.
We can talk to them.
Yeah, end of June.
so, I think there's value to us having that discussion.
Just shake a hand. If you could, that'd be great.
I did with my
Okay,
list.
okay, anything else, Wendy? Sorry.
No,
Okay.
do you have anything else you'd like to see?
I think that was it. Was that it? I was just supposed to bring up pickleball. I think that was it. Okay.
So yes on the joint meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll be seeing each other a lot.
future citizen recognitions.
I've got one. Ridgeview has the Utah Outstanding Teacher of the Year as elementary ed. I'd like to bring her in and just give her an accolade.
Are you gonna facilitate that,
Yeah,
or would
I-
you like Jackie or I to?
No, I can contact her, I know her personally, so.
Okay.
She's pretty awesome.
Okay. Here we go, 4.1, property encroachment enforcement update, EA.
Thanks, Mayor, Council.
Obviously, I asked to come in and address the council and give you an update on the encroachments and kind of what's happened with that over close to the last 2 years since it ended up with us in code enforcement. We put a process in place. I know many of you have heard from residents that we've reached out to and sent letters to and been in contact with, so I wanted to take a few minutes and give you an update on what that process looks like. Hopefully that will help a little bit as you get contacted or if you get contacted by future folks so that everybody understands kind of what the process looks like. Basically, as you know from our last update, I think we talked last about encroachment in a joint meeting maybe a year or so ago, and what was going on with code enforcement. At that time, we were just implementing Comcate, which was a software product that we bought to manage the cases. And so we've been implementing that software and using that to help us manage all of these cases. The process follows our city ordinance. Essentially, we've been giving notices to the folks that we have. We have 84 cases. The original list that I got was 83. And then we had one encroachment that surfaced on a new home that was under construction that we dealt with. So the list grew to 84. We've tried to tackle those slowly because we know that each one has its special circumstances. We're about 25 cases that are active. I think the number that I gave you was 17 of those have been resolved. 18 have been resolved since I put that into Prime Gov for this meeting. So we have 18 cases that have been resolved and fixed and taken care of. But essentially the process right now is that code enforcement officers are serving a notice on the property owner. They have 10 days to respond to that notice. If they don't respond at all, if we don't hear from them, then we serve a second notice. The 10 days starts over again. If they respond, essentially what's happening is our code enforcement officers are using themselves as the liaison from the city. This is what the problem is. Here's a photograph of the encroachment. Here's what the city's asking to remove this, whatever's happened, a fence or a shed or whatever that is. And then we have a discussion with them about what that looks like. The officer is not empowered to tell them what they can or can't do other than, hey, you need to come in and remove this from city property. Requests by the homeowner, any special information that they are providing to the code enforcement officers, they're bringing back to me so that I can funnel that to the proper place, whether that be a question for building, a question for legal, a question for the administration or whatever. And really that's an effort to cut down for the citizens on trying to reach out to the right place and call the right person and bouncing around trying to figure out who it is that they can talk to about something. If you have a concern about your property or where the property boundary is or what conversations you may or may not have had in the past with somebody about what happened, give that to the code enforcement officer. They'll bring that to me. I'll try to facilitate an answer for you and get back to you so that we can work through that and see if we can come to a solution. If we don't get any response, obviously we go to the second notification. If we get a response after the second notification, we're jumping right back into that same process. Once we open up a dialogue with a property owner and ask them to remove the encroachment, have that discussion with them, we're allowing them to steer the process. So if they say, hey, I can do that, I'm gonna need to get a bid to have somebody come in and do some work or whatever the problem is, great. Keep in contact with us, let us know as that moves along. We're not holding any hard, fast deadline or anything, we're just asking that we continue to communicate and let us know where you are in that process as we move forward. So it's super open-ended. I think our longest to date is just over 600 days from our first contact until that property was brought back into compliance. So there's certainly not an urgency to it. We also recognize that some of these are going out during, winter months. We're talking to people, so we're making sure that they understand that we recognize that you may not have someone come in and do work or put a fence in February because of the weather and weather conditions. So give us a timeline, we'll come back, we'll check in with you. That software program allows the code enforcement officer to go in, punch in a date, whatever that date is, as far out as it needs to be realistic. And then it reminds the officer to go back and check up with them and follow up with them. So, like I said, we've been working with the property owners, trying to make sure that they have all the time they need to do that. If we end up in a situation where either we don't hear anything back from the property owner, or we simply aren't making any progress. We've contacted you twice, we've issued letters, we've had conversations, and now we've gone 3 months and nothing's happened, and there's no effort on the property owner's behalf to remedy the problem, then we're submitting that to the administrative law judge. When we started this process almost 2 years ago, we didn't have an administrative law judge in place. We worked with legal, got that set up, we have a judge now. We're trying to calendar monthly, but it depends on the workload. If we don't have any cases that are ready to go, we've canceled a couple of months. So we've done about 4 now, maybe 5. The administrative law judge will send out a certified letter to the property owner requesting that they attend that hearing. And in that hearing, it's essentially a presentation. The officer stands up, gives information about what's happening, photographs, documentation, and then the property owner is allowed to give their version of what's going on. They're allowed to bring in witnesses if they so choose, friends, family members, whoever that may be, to discuss whatever the issue is. And then the judge is ruling on that. The ones that have currently made it that far in this process all ended with the judge saying, essentially, here's the issue. We need to correct the issue. I need you to go back, work with the officer, come up with a resolution, come back and see me in 60 days. That 60 days for those 3 cases is on our next hearing, May 23rd. So there's 3 people that'll be coming back for their second hearing, which is really just a scheduling conference to say, hey, where are you at? What have you done? What have you worked out? And so again, we've given them another 60 days to try and come up with a solution. So we haven't imposed any fines on anybody related to encroachments at this point. We haven't taken any action to go in and remedy the problem ourselves. We're just getting to that part of the process where we're bringing them into the hearing. But the hearing is, again, we're looking for compliance. We're trying to resolve this problem. How do we negotiate? And we have an impartial judge who's helping us referee that, if you will. So, any questions about the process so far?
So talking it over with my spouse, because she's a little bit more sympathetic than I am on these issues. Financially, some of these are very financially impacted, right, for the homeowner to remedy. How does that, is that part of the plan process if they say, hey, I need 2 or 3 summers to get this done, or what's that timeline look like?
We haven't gone that far out into it. We have had a significant, we have one resident who's spent probably well above $20,000 to remedy. But he asked for a timeline, we set that up.
So it's all owner driven?
We let him guide it,
Okay.
and you know, that was he had to relocate a wall, so it was pretty expensive for that homeowner. But it really is driven by the homeowner, depending on what the size and scope of it is. I've been out with our code enforcement people. I was out last week and met with some homeowners and walked a fence line that they have that's probably 200 plus feet long that needs to be moved. But we've tried to talk through issues. A lot of folks are talking about getting a survey. It's very expensive. So we're trying to say, look, let's have a conversation. We can agree to where that property line is. I don't want you to have to pay for a survey if it's unnecessary. We're looking at GIS mapping, at county assessors mapping. It's pretty close. We're gonna give you a little bit of variance, but we're gonna give you a letter that you're in compliance once we all agree on what that is. The folks that I talked to have a swimming pool pump that looks about the size of a air conditioning unit. It is right on the line. And depending on how you look at it, it slices it about a foot off the edge of it. No, we'll give you that. You know, we don't wanna have to relocate your pool pump. We recognize that, you know, that satellite image has a variance in it. Dr. Blake about that. Yeah, and we've gone through this.
A lot of variance in them too, so who knows?
Yeah, so we've tried to
We
work
haven't been
with
heavy
property
handed
owners.
and said, do this
Certainly
or
not.
else.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been any financial penalties or fines imposed as of
We've
today?
not imposed any financial penalties on anyone at this point. And our administrative law judge, Matt and I and several of the code enforcement people went out and watched other agencies and how their hearings were taking place, and that was part of our selection process, is understanding what's happening. Our judge understands that this isn't to penalize people, it's to get compliance. So even though some of the fine amounts for some of the other code enforcement things, one of them was $15,000. That person became compliant, not an encroachment, but a separate code violation. He paid $300. We waived the other $14,700, if my math is right, as long as he's compliant. We'll hold that for a
Lose your
year.
job, Kyle. You just did that on his head.
Hold on, Kyle. Coming in for the general.
Spreadsheet and everything.
Yeah, I had it written down. Checked it twice.
In reference to the cases that have had the default judgment issued, what is the resolution from that? What does that
So,
mean as impact to
so
someone?
yeah, so the default judgment, Matt Brooks and I have been talking about that, and essentially, we're in the same place. Okay, we sent you a notice, we didn't hear from you. We sent you a second notice, we didn't hear from you. We sent you an invitation to the administrative law hearing, you didn't show up. We have a default judgment, we have 2 default judgments on folks. So, now the process, as Matt and I have discussed it, is we're gonna send you another certified letter saying, hey, we have a default judgment against you, this is what the details of that are. We want you to come in, because we want you to be compliant. We don't wanna go out, and tear your fence out and relocate it, we don't wanna do all that, because that's either the city doing it or us contracting with an outside source to do that work. And quite simply, it's a cost on us, then we're gonna go back and try and recover that cost and fines, and we would rather have you come in. We've had some default judgments on non-encroachment cases, where the folks have then called and said, hey, what happened? I rent that property, I didn't, whatever. There was some explanation for why they didn't get it. We've invited them in, we've given them another opportunity to become compliant. In fact, the one I just talked about, the $15,000 fine, was a scenario similar to that, where we went back and forth, and that individual came in, family members came in, and ultimately he became compliant. He removed the violation and paid a $300 fine, which is not much more than speeding ticket. So probably similar.
Just to do what I do, to take that part away. One or these two, just perpetually ignore it.
Yeah.
What is our end game?
So
I
if,
mean, we're looking for compliance.
Sure.
so if
We're
we
not looking to
mitigated,
punish people, we're not looking to be heavy-handed or anything, we just want compliance, but if you have somebody who just basically says, screw you, I'm not doing it.
I think you should say, we haven't charged fines, we could. And the mitigation, if you go out, then you're going to assess that and put it on there. I mean, you're either gonna try and lien it, or you're gonna send it to collections, you're going to,
So eventually,
them pay.
so I'm just trying to take your question to its full conclusion, Teddy, like at some point we could do those.
correct, yeah.
We just really don't want.
And some of those things are processes that we're currently talking about. So if you have a property with a bunch of junk vehicles and we need to come out and tow all those vehicles as a part of that abatement
There's a
process.
fine cost.
What's the, so as we wander farther and farther into code enforcement, those are ongoing conversations that we're having is this something that city staff can do? And how are we paying for it? Because we're gonna have to pay for it up front and then recoup that money down the road. That could be years, depending on legal action. This is something that we're contracting for services, external services, a fencing company or a landscaping company that could potentially have to come in and
Correct the problem.
tear out sprinklers or.
And then it's not
Yeah.
recovering costs from them, right, then you're taking legal action to do so.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Sherry.
About what percentage of time is code enforcement spending on these encroachment issues versus other types of problems?
I've tried to meter the cases out pretty slow, knowing that they're going to be time consuming. I don't know that I could say that, Jenny spends 5% of her time or 10% of her time. It's fairly limited. I'll tell you how much of my time is spent. It's a lot. I have spent a lot of time, most of my day is consumed with that in the last few
Encroachment.
weeks. code enforcement stuff. And a lot of it is because they can go out and serve a notice and have a conversation with someone, and then they get an email back with, what about ABC, just like you guys have seen some of the stuff. So that ends up coming back to me. So I've had meetings with Blake, I've had meetings with Nathan, I've had meetings with Matt Brooks multiple times to discuss a concern that's popped up. Okay, there's an issue here. Blake and I sat and looked at lot lines and did a whole bunch of measuring on a property that essentially, once we got done, it's so close that I don't know that either side wins. So it was more of a wash. We're telling you right now that we think that you've probably gone over this line by a foot or so. So if you do any additional landscaping or development, you should pay to have a survey done, because we think you're already right over the line. But it's grass, it's plants, it's some landscaping, it's not a structure, it's not sprinklers, it's not anything like that.
And short of paying for a survey, we can't exactly define where that line is, but we know it's close.
And part of that was, when you look at the initial document that we looked at, it looks like it's several feet over, but when Blake started looking at it and you look at where the line is in the front, it's clearly the overlay it's kind of shifted a little bit. And so we were like, it's probably about a 3 foot
On the county
difference.
map,
So
for
now
sure,
we're down in that 1 foot range where we think it could go either way.
Yeah, but you're not talking, they're not spending half of their time on encroachment.
No.
You probably are, but they are not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is your time spent on it come in waves as new letters go out, or is it pretty consistent because they're long leads?
Yeah, as we've moved into a round of second letters, okay, we've worked with these folks, winter's over, spring's here, I imported all the cases into our current system, and then handed out here's 6 for you and 6 for you, and all of a sudden, the next 2 weeks, I spend building things coming back in, and that's why you all of a sudden heard about it, because we started out with another crop of folks, and put out some more letters, and of course, there's a percentage of those folks that have a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, and they're trying to figure it out, and again, we're working with them, the discussions with the ALJ judge and the property owners is, we're not construction, curbing, sprinklers, grass, sheds, trampolines, all those things need to be removed. But there's an individual that has some large boulders, and there's boulders on the other side of the property line. That's okay, even a tree. It's not your tree anymore. You're welcome to water with your garden hose if you want, and the city may come in and take it out at some point if there's some other thing there, but we're not gonna make you dig it up and throw out the garbage. If you wanna move it onto your property and transplant it, some shrubs and things, that's fine, but we're not demanding that all those things just get thrown away. If there's a mature tree there that potentially could survive and you want to put it there and it's in the green belt area.
Are they required to reclaim the land or put it back or just remove?
We're asking
irrigation or-
that they return it as close to its original state as possible. But we're not asking them to, go and plant vegetation necessarily, unless it's something that was a steep slope and we would need to look at it. But then again, we would bring in our folks, we'd bring in Anthony from Parks or whatever, and look at it and say, okay, what is acceptable given the contour of the land or whatever, but most of it's going to, it'll return to its original state pretty quickly.
Any other question?
Thanks for your work.
Appreciate the update. Thank you. Thank you. Thank Jenny and Aaron too. You bet. Okay, can we do this real fast?
Sent on you.
Do it.
So I did, this is the policy proclamations. So I sent this to you a couple weeks back, I think, and then you of course got it in here. As we've had our conversation, I highlighted essentially the operative parts of this policy, what actually matters, and I've listed some options. I ended up, I think it was jokingly, I said I should use AI. So I actually had AI go out and find me examples of city proclamations. I got like 8 and went through and tried to identify consistently what they do. Some cities have incredible, they're like 10 pages long with all these little things, and I I just tried to grab the parts that were important. So really it's these highlighted, and I'm just looking for some feedback. And maybe the first question is specifically, an option I put on there, should it be limited to Harriman residents? You wanna limit it to Harriman residents, yes or no?
I don't think we can if we're gonna do Arbor Day.
But it's city employees bringing it forward, that's not them asking. What this is saying is, it's a Harriman resident asking you to do it.
So, my couple of thoughts on that is, what about if it's a state agency or a county agency, or do they have opportunities to do, or ask us for proclamations as well? Or could be,
I mean, it just could come through staff and.
oh, come on.
And again, doesn't, even if we did open it to everybody else, they'd have to follow the rest of the steps too.
Right.
So that's why it's just an option. I would say 60% of them had the residency requirement, the others don't ever mention it, so.
I do like that idea. I mean, it does limit the outside influences.
It's interesting though, that the item 133 about national issues outside the purview of the city of Harriman. I mean, maybe we just struck the word national
Oh, yeah.
from it and just said issues outside the purview of the city of Harriman. Kind of
I like that.
trumps
actually.
all the other stuff, you know? You don't have to worry about whether or not it comes from inside or outside the city. If it's up from outside and has nothing to do with the city, we would.
I like
that
It's kind of
trumps
like our
it.
public comment, right?
Yeah. But I think the rest is good, saying we don't wanna have illegal or insightful or defamatory or, you know, blah, 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 any of that kind of stuff, yeah.
And again, this is
Controversy.
more for staff to use. Then we can, I mean, anybody in our seats can anytime
What is true?
bring something.
What is true? So that
for us to
was,
discuss.
yeah, that's under
Just 'cause-
3.1.
Just because we have this
Yeah,
policy doesn't mean we can't go outside.
yeah,
It's more for them.
which it says we can do whatever we want.
So again, this is really staff, so we are going to filter, so if somebody came to you, they said no, and you're gonna say they should say no, but majority of us wanna do it anyways, okay. It's just, this is what we'll.
Guidelines for you guys, yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's, God bless AI, right?
It definitely helps.
I wouldn't have thought of looking at some of these cities that it pulled up, here are some samples. Okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay, everybody good with it?
Yep.
You got what you need then?
Yep, just strike national and we'll bring it back.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna look for, rather than, I don't think we do 4.0. So let's go into, temporarily adjourn. I'll look for motion.
Make a motion to temporarily recess work meeting to, go into regular city council meeting. Or actually, our other meeting's probably first, or
CDRA.
our CDRA meeting.
Okay, motion by Tim, second, all in favor?
Alright.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Courtney will be here next